Welcome, my friends, to the Sage of Quay Radio Hour, your home for free and critical thinking, and I'm your host, Mike Williams. Tonight, a very special guest is the iconic Anthony Hilder. As a talk show host, investigative journalist, and war correspondent, Anthony has done approximately 17,000 interviews over the past 30 years, along with 21 video documentaries, working 24/7 to bring his dream of a free world into being. Anthony is always controversial, always original, and always in the fight for freedom, as he continues his lifelong goal of freeing the world's people from the nightmare that has been brought about through Big Brother and the international banking cabal in their efforts to bring about a new world order. My discussion with Anthony was wide-ranging and fascinating as he offers his decades of insight on Hillary Clinton's agenda, political decadence, societal dysfunction, Vladimir Putin, his time during the Hollywood scene, and finishing up with the conspiracies around the assassinations of Robert F. Kennedy and Martin Luther King. One footnote before we get started: Anthony suffered a stroke 2 years ago, which he is still recovering from. His continued perseverance and dedication to his cause speaks for itself. Our interview starts with Anthony expressing his concerns with the unisexual or androgynous agenda of Hillary Clinton, who Anthony refers to as Hitlery. So without further ado, let's take a listen. Anthony, is it just impeachment and Hillary you wanted to talk about?
Well, the Illuminati and the continuation of treason. I'm very disturbed over what is happening, what has happened. I'm generally upset about the state of the nation.
Yeah, it's in very bad shape. It seems like the globalists have the pedal to the metal, and they're just plowing ahead with their agenda.
It's a one world order program, and I'm frightened about it for the people, you know.
What do you think they have planned? Now, I know that we know it's a one world government, but what do you foresee happening with regard to additional restrictions on liberty, those types of things?
I'm looking at their intent to bring about a unisexual society, and they're dead set on it, too. I don't want to see a unisex society. I don't want to see the elimination of manhood, a Hitlery society. So, I'm worried about it.
Going to Benghazi, as an example, do you think that Hillary is damaged goods at this point in time? In other words, enough people have enough of an understanding that Benghazi, that something very, very bad went down there, and she's tied to it, that it would essentially knock her out of contention for the presidency?
I wish it would. I can't envision a nation more tumultuous, more treasonous than what we've had. But with Hillary Clinton, I can't imagine it.
If it's possible, I think she would be more of a wrecking ball than Barack Obama.
Yes.
What concerns you the most about her, Anthony? Because some people might be listening, and, you know, hopefully we have some new listeners and people are just hopping on board and maybe starting to awaken and maybe starting to get it a little bit. And so, like, okay, well, we hear these things about Hillary Clinton, and but what exactly is it about Hillary Clinton?
She wants a unisexual society.
So you're looking at her, and one of her ultimate objectives is to have this androgynous society?
Yes, it is Hillary's intention to change society. It is her intention.
50% of the people in this country will vote for her if she's on the ticket. That's my personal view. How would she be able to implement an agenda of a unisexual society or an androgynous society? How would she get that pushed through with the remaining population that would look at that and say, it's absolutely crazy, it's not happening, not going there? So how does it get implemented?
Well, by force. She thinks she has the balls enough to pull it off.
That's why I was asking about Benghazi, because it seems to be the one thing that she may not be able to easily detach herself from. I could be wrong, but that's kind of the sense that I have.
I think she is dangerous, very dangerous, more dangerous than all of the individuals that haven't made up their mind who they are or what they are. The beginning of the end of this country, if she gets in. She is not kidding.
Anthony, if we could just switch gears a little bit here, setting Hillary aside and her ilk, what about Vladimir Putin? What's your view and your opinion on Putin?
I think Putin is a good guy, not attempting to destroy his country. Hillary Clinton may try to destroy her country.
She doesn't really represent a country, right? I mean, she represents an ideology and an agenda cloaked around a country. Putin appears to be extremely interested in preserving Russia, the Russian culture, and protecting the Russian people.
Well, he's interested in preserving society.
Right.
I have less to fear with RuPaul being president than I do Hillary Clinton.
Before she can become president, we've got to get through the next 2 years with the current inhabitant of the White House. What do you see happening there? Does he get impeached?
I don't think it'll happen, no. There's a fellow who did a story about the president being a bisexual. There's a fellow who wrote a book about his experience with the president in Chicago. He said that he had had a relationship with him in a limousine. And
yeah, I remember the story.
What was his name?
I forgot the guy's name, but I remember the story.
Yeah. That story is one that should be told. In fact, if I'm alive long enough, I'll do a piece on that. It's important that I convey the story of reality. I had a stroke.
Yes.
So I'm dealing with an illness, but not incomprehensible.
How long ago was the stroke, Anthony?
Just about 2 years.
Okay.
I'm going to have some hyperbaric treatment. It doesn't stop me from thinking.
No, you're doing great.
I am so concerned that the United States of America, as we once knew it, cannot exist with a society that accepts the unacceptable.
Well, Anthony, you know this better than anybody because you've been at this for decades. They have the masses locked down, inculcated, indoctrinated, propagandized. Most people don't care about anything. The level of apathy, it's off the map.
So the apathy, the arrogance, and the ignorance, we weren't defeated by Hitler, but we could be defeated by Hillary. There's a difference. One really existed and really was a threat.
Well, one is external, the other one is internal subversion.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the evil. The evil is that the subversion is from within. And this is why people don't see it. Or if they see glimpses of it, they just go into denial. They just walk away from it. In the meantime, the machine continues to move 24/7, continues to do its work.
Do you not fear the destruction of the United States government?
My perspective, Anthony, is I see it coming apart at the seams. This is why I'm doing what I'm doing. Trying to get people to see it. Trying to get people to awaken to it.
By the way, you're doing a damn good job.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Yes, I thank you. And I thank all who think like you. Who have the guts and the brains and the bronze to possibly engineer or create a change, major change.
Have you seen a change, Anthony? I mentioned before, you've been at this a very, very long time, at the forefront, really cutting the path for everybody else, for people like me. In the time that you've been involved with seeking truth and exposing the lies and the deception, if you had to take a step back, like right now, and assess whether people are more aware, if there is a difference, how would you assess that?
There has been a difference. We have made minor changes, but we haven't incited a revelation to avoid a revolution. We must incite a revelation to avoid a revolution. That has to happen.
How does it happen, though? This is the $64,000 question, right? I understand completely what you're saying. But then the next question, somebody listening to the show would say, all right, well, how does that happen? What types of events would lead to that revelation?
Well, we have to recognize reality. But we can't have the common, ordinary man and woman think of those who ignore the reality of life as normal.
I think a big part of the problem for many people, Anthony, is that this matrix, this system, has got so many people on a treadmill, on the hamster wheel of life, that they are essentially almost underwater. They can't breathe. And I'm talking about working families, bogged down with debt, two parents having to work to be able to support a home and children. When I was growing up, my father worked, Mom stayed home. So we always had parental guidance and parental influence in our house. All of that stuff today has evaporated.
It's as bad as Detroit once was. And you know how bad that was.
Right. Well, many people don't understand that the unemployment rate, the true unemployment rate in this country is up over 20%.
Yes, we are unemployed. And here in California, you walk down the streets of Santa Monica, and there's a massive amount of people who are walking the streets, hunting for work, and they're not finding relief.
Right. Are you affected by the drought?
Oh, yes.
California drought?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's going to get worse.
Do you subscribe to the drought and the weather being geoengineered and manipulated?
I think we have weather modification by design.
What do you mean by design?
It's engineered. The nutballs out there that cause this stuff. I can go out in the sky and I can look up. I can see
the spray.
The spray, yes.
Yeah. There's no question they're spraying. There's absolutely no question.
They're doing it by design. I see some salvation with Putin. This guy is not trying to ruin his country.
I recently watched, he did a conference, I think it was in Germany. I'm not sure the date. It was fairly recent. And he spoke for about 30 minutes. And in that speech, he completely outed the New World Order. Essentially just laid the cards out on the table. Explained what was going on. And he did this with the NATO countries sitting in the conference. He just boldly went there and spoke his mind and gave facts and said, this is what's going on. I found it to be very, very interesting that he stepped up to the plate like that.
Well, he's against the Ein Volk, Ein Reich, Ein Führer, one world, one race, one ruler. And he's against the unisexualization of the nation, of our nation, of any nation. If that happens, and it is happening like it is in the UK, that will bring us down and out quickly. There won't be a great deal of time if this is allowed to happen. And I have to say, honestly, that it is being allowed.
It is. In this country, it is. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. There's no doubt about it. And do you think that Putin can put the brakes on this New World Order with his BRICS alliance and a lot of what he's doing to foster sovereignty within his country and other countries? Do you see him being a game changer?
I do. I like Putin. That may sound absolutely preposterous, considering I have always been an anti-communist. But times have changed.
He's not speaking like a communist. I have been reading and listening to a lot of what he has been saying, and unless he's putting on a really, really good show, and somebody could say to me, you know, Mike, that's exactly what's going on. He's putting on a really good show. He is not speaking, walking like a communist. That's my personal view. Let's put it this way, far less than what's going on in this country.
Certainly, Hillary is acting more like a card-carrying communist than Putin. I am very, 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 very upset at the possible election or selection of Hillary Clinton. Society has changed. I'm taking a look at the day-to-day events. This mindset has changed in the past 2 or 3 months to be more tolerable of the intolerable, acceptable of the unacceptable.
Right. And this is all done by the media.
By design.
By design, through the media, predominantly.
Right.
Just keep putting it out there, putting it out there, putting it out there, until they get a level of acceptance in which they can really get their momentum going. But there's certainly a breakdown, Anthony, of morality, and decency, and responsibility, a breakdown of the family unit, really the breakdown of the masculine in society today. Anthony, what about Bill Clinton? What can you tell us about Bill?
Bill's half-brother is a friend of mine. And I've heard the stories, you know, how Bill, when he was in the drug business, And he was in the drug business.
So all those stories are true?
They are. And I had heard one of a friend of his who was also in the drug business, and he was dropped off at the governor's mansion and asked to come back, but in the morning. My friend said that his friend called him up about shortly after he was dropped off at the governor's mansion, and he said, "Come get me the hell out of here." He said that, in essence, alluding to that she was practicing some sort of witchcraft or something like that.
So she was practicing some kind of ritual, some kind of craft at the governor's mansion in Arkansas?
Yes.
Wow. I mean, it doesn't surprise me. I mean, it probably should surprise me, but it does not.
Well, I sat there listening to the story. He said the guy called him up, and he wouldn't give the full story while he was there at the mansion. But the guy asked him to, get him out of there. Get him out of there quick. And this is a guy who dealt drugs, A friend of mine he's now dead, former head of the FBI in L.A., Dallas, and Memphis.
Was it Gunderson?
Gunderson. Ted was sitting in this very room where I'm talking to you from. He said, he told me this story about the White House models, those women who were hired by the government to have these girls perform sexual acts. And they were taken by, I guess, agents of the government to perform sexual acts, and Hitler was one of them. Not all of the participants were men.
Okay.
And he told me that one of the participants was Hillary Clinton.
So they'd have these call girls come in?
Yes.
Okay, and so it wasn't just the guys with the call girls, it was some ladies with the call girls, and one of those ladies was Hillary Clinton.
Yes.
Well, Anthony, doesn't surprise me, because wasn't there, I'm trying to remember now, I think it was back in the late 80s, wasn't there a gay prostitution ring that was under investigation? It was in the Reagan-Bush White House?
Yes. And Larry Flint, whose morality is certainly in question, talked about the event that he was invited to at the Broadmoor Hotel outside of Denver. And at this party, Ronald Reagan was invited. I actually know 3 people who were there.
Now, Anthony, just for a moment, was this when Reagan was governor, president?
It's before he became president, but during the time he was governor.
Okay.
And Larry Flint, he was going to expose the gang, so to speak. I used to be involved in politics and dealt with some of those people whom I should not disclose. And Morgan, remember Morgan?
I'm not recalling Morgan.
She was one of the girls that worked for Larry Clinton. Anyhow, Reagan was invited to the party. Vicki Morgan,
okay.
Vicki was invited, was the participant, one of the key participants. Anyhow, Vicki Morgan, I think eventually was killed. But I guess she spoke too much.
I'm trying to recall this now. She died in the early 80s.
Yes.
Yeah.
The fellow who told me the story, I've heard it from 3 different people that were there. And Larry Flint wanted to become president. He actually ran a campaign to become president. He was rather brazen. They had 2-way mirrors. Larry Flint had hidden cameras. At that party, Reagan, Vicki Morgan was to service him, Mm-hmm. I don't know whether I should tell his story. But it was at the Broadmoor Hotel. He said, it was bad, but you haven't seen anything yet. How bad was it?
Yeah, that was my question. How bad was it?
It was bad.
Was he referring to, was it abusive?
Not abusive, but
if you're not comfortable, Anthony, talking about it, then don't talk about it.
I probably should not tell much more of the story.
If you're not comfortable, don't do it.
I met Reagan, but I met Nixon, and he was straight, and he told Henry Kissinger that that was the most faggiest place he'd ever seen was the Grove.
Bohemian Grove? Yeah.
And he said faggiest.
Yeah, I remember seeing that clip.
It's in one of my films. I knew part of the White House crowd, Ehrlichman and Haldeman. I knew them.
How did you get to know them, Anthony? How did that come about?
Well, I was involved in politics.
Anthony, with everything that you know, which is, you know a lot, have you ever had any issues, problems, harassing, intimidation, any of those types of things?
Well, I've been shot at, you know. I was shot at, and I guess they tried to kill me.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, Doctor, I said, give me the truth. I said, well, what are my chances of surviving? And he didn't answer.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, wait a minute, I'm asking for the truth.
Right.
I said, what are my chances of survival? He said, 1 in 10.
10%.
I said, 4 are against. He said, against.
Wow.
That upsets me.
Well, Anthony, it's completely understandable. If it's easier for you, we could just move to another topic.
Well, that's all right. I'm all right.
Okay.
There's stories that I would like to tell, you know.
Yeah.
My mentor was Myron Fagan.
Interviews you did in the late 60s, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I was a friend of Mae West, who was a good friend of mine.
Wow. Okay.
I like Mae. She was honest.
Who else did you know?
Well, I was amongst some people in Hollywood. I knew Ephraim Zimbalist Jr.
Oh, the old, the FBI, right?
Yeah.
The FBI show. I loved that show when I was a kid.
He was a good guy.
Yeah.
Friend. And Walter Brennan.
Walter Brennan, too. Okay.
Yeah. You see, I remember when it was a crime to pray in school. And he said it, and he meant it. I told Mae that story.
Which story did you tell?
I told Mae it wasn't a crime to pray in school.
Yeah.
And she was pretty open. She's very open, you know.
How bad is Hollywood, Anthony? How bad is it from a standpoint of the decadence, and what was it like?
I used to be in charge of production at the old Selznick studio.
Okay.
It once was called Laird. I was in charge of production when it was called Laird International. We owned a lot. Literally, we owned the lot. Gone with the Wind was done there.
Wow.
Citizen Kane, King Kong.
Wow.
I was just watching a film last night. A lot of these guys, you know, that I knew. I did a picture with Jill St. John.
I remember Jill St. John.
Lee Marvin.
Lee Marvin. Great.
And Cary Grant.
Cary Grant, too?
Yes, absolutely. I like the guy.
I was just going to ask you, was Cary Grant a good guy? Because you watch his movies, he comes across as a really good guy, but of course, that's a character he plays in the movie. I was just going to ask you, what was it like in real life?
I don't have anything bad to say about him. I knew Brando. I liked Brando. One of my girlfriends was I guess you'd have to say a lover of Brando. She used to live with Brando. Brando was a pro-red, you know. I was not. I was very, very much anti-communist, and Lucille Ball.
Lucille Ball?
Yeah. Joined the Communist Party. Literally joined the Communist Party. They had bought the studio where I was in charge of. You know, I met a lot of these people. That was primarily not because I was in the Hollywood scene, but well, I guess you can consider me overly righteous or moral than some of the other people. Anyhow, my agent used to be have a couple of big clients, and my stepmother was Dorothy Granger. I don't know if you remember Dorothy Granger. She played opposite Leon Errol in the Leon Errol comedies, and she was under contract with Hal Roach. She's dead now, so I guess she wouldn't mind, but she betted Clark Gable.
Wow, okay.
But I shouldn't say that, but I guess it's okay. She's gone.
Well, he's gone too, right?
Yes.
So
my high school sweetheart was a young girl in Gone with the Wind, Phyllis Cowell.
very interesting. In fact, I just looked up your stepmom. It looks like she did some work with Mo Howard and Curly Howard.
Yes.
How about that?
Well, she thought they were really rude and obnoxious.
Did she? Okay.
Yes. And they were, they were vile, They played the part.
So they weren't really acting.
Anyhow, Dorothy Granger was married to Jack Hilder, my father.
Okay.
And my daughter wants to re-enter the business, so to speak.
Was she already there and going back, or was she interested in going in?
Going in.
Going in.
She's not a young girl, but I mean, she's, she's got acting experience, and her only problem was that she was too good looking, and that was a problem.
She was too good looking?
Yes.
Wow, you wouldn't think that would be a problem. Why was that a problem?
If you had as many men trying to reach her as she has had, and it's always been a problem, and she did drugs.
Okay.
And it's Hollywood,
Yeah, yeah.
But she used to go with Clark Gable Jr., who was a complete asshole.
Well,
a complete jerk.
You're her father, you could say that.
The fellow used to play Ironside.
Raymond Burke, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
He's dead now, so it's all right that I tell. He's as queer as a $3 bill.
So far, Anthony, I'm trying to figure out who is not gay.
So there's a lot that weren't gay, but like I said, I like some people. Fred Astaire, good guy, very good guy.
Wow, I mean, you knew some very, very big names in the business.
I did a film with Jimmy Stewart.
That's great. Jimmy Stewart.
But that was a time I had to change my accent.
Now, why did you have to change your accent?
I spoke a bit like him at the time.
Okay.
The one guy whose name I was going to mention, he was a cowboy. He was living with Cary Grant.
Well, they have Randolph Scott.
Yes, Randolph Scott. He was a nice guy. A friend of mine used to go with Marilyn Monroe, and her name was...
Well, her real name was Norma Jean, right? Norma
Jean Baker. That was her real name. She used to live over here before they murdered her.
Well, she was murdered, right?
Yeah, she was murdered.
Yeah.
In fact, a friend of mine did a book on it, 2 books on it. The guy that she married, the Norma Jean married, the studio caused her to get a divorce.
Okay.
He was speaking to her the day that she took out of hand.
He was speaking to her?
Yes. I'm accused of being the one who hypnotized Sirhan Sirhan.
I'm sorry. Who was accused of hypnotizing Sirhan Sirhan?
Me.
You, as I thought you said. You're accused of that?
Accused of, but I didn't do it.
No, I didn't think you did it, but I'm sitting here thinking to myself, how did that accusation come about?
I was at not at the Broadmoor, but at the Coconut Grove. By the way, I did not like Kennedy. Bobby Kennedy.
You didn't like Bobby Kennedy?
Did not.
How about Jack?
Yeah, I liked Jack. According to Billy Solis, LBJ arranged for the killing of Jack Kennedy.
Yeah.
And I was going to meet with him right before the stroke.
Who are we going to meet with, Anthony?
Billy Solis. He was a crook. I'm accused in the book of the assassination of Robert Francis Kennedy. I was accused of killing Bobby Kennedy. It's in the book, The Assassination of Robert Francis Kennedy. I spent a lot of time in the South.
Is that in New Orleans?
No, not. in Alabama.
Okay.
And a friend of mine, Dr. Gus Prosh, went to prison, wrongly accusing the Jefferson County Police Department of having the largest arms stash in Southern history. A reporter on the investigation of, well, I don't want to tell that.
That's okay. I'm still kind of curious about the whole RFK thing. Were you involved in it?
No. I wasn't involved in it. I have a friend, former ball player. He and I both were at the assassination. I had predicted the assassination of RFK 5 days before it occurred.
And you predicted that based upon what happened to his brother?
Yes, based upon what happened to his brother was going to happen again.
Yeah, okay. Well, that doesn't seem very far-fetched.
No.
Now, Anthony, just to backtrack a little bit, I'm assuming the ball player that's a friend of yours is Rosie Greer. If you were with Rosie when RFK was assassinated, where exactly were you?
I was in the other room. But when he died, I talked to Rosie, and in fact, I'm a friend of Rosie's. You know, he's a minister now.
Yes.
He's a good guy, and we're friends.
So, Anthony, were you ever investigated as part of the conspiracy to assassinate RFK, or what happened, or nothing happened?
Well, one of the conspiratorial papers published a book accusing me of doing the deed.
And the accusation comes in the form of you hypnotizing Sirhan.
Yes.
But wouldn't that level of hypnotizing be mind control, an MK Ultra type of mind control? This is not just sit a guy in a chair for a couple times and hypnotize. This has to be mind control. We're talking about you and Cameron types of mind control.
Yes.
I find the whole Sirhan situation interesting because the conspiracy, at least the theory now, is that he was not the only shooter.
He was not.
Yeah, because they found more rounds than his gun carried. I mean, that's my understanding. I'm trying to refresh myself on this. It's been a while.
The assassination of Robert Francis Kennedy. I'm using the book. The book is The Man, the Mysticism, and the Murder.
Okay.
And I wrote that with John Steinbacher, but I wanted my name taken off because I didn't want to be killed. I'm serious. I didn't want to have that on my neck. And by the way, Sirhan did not shoot or did not kill Bobby Kennedy.
Right.
I did the book with John Steinbacher. You can read it.
Yeah, actually, I found the book back. Looks like 1968.
Yes. I had also predicted the assassination of JFK, RFK, and Martin Luther King. I had made that prediction when I was in Montgomery, Alabama.
When MLK was there, or?
Well, I had made the prediction through George Wallace's assistant that I had made the prediction of the assassination. And by the way, the guy that's accused of killing Martin Luther King.
James Earl Ray.
Yes, James Earl Ray. He did not do it, period.
Who did it?
Well, I had heard the killing was but involving the man that they called the man in the wheelchair. I don't know what his name was. But I got that information. Damn, I don't want to get myself killed.
I don't want you saying anything or going anywhere that's going to be detrimental to you or me, so no worries.
What I've told you is the truth.
I know.
Probably, at least for the moment, a little too much of the truth. You can read the book, The Man, the Mysticism, and the Murder.
Yeah, I'm going to order the book. I found it on Amazon. I'm going to order the book.
Listen, I thank you very, very much for calling me, and we'll do it again.
We will do it again.
Thank you.
You're very welcome, Anthony. And we'll catch up again.
All right.
All right, thank you. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.
And that concludes my interview with Anthony Hilder, and I hope you enjoyed the discussion as much as I did. Anthony's website can be found at www.freeworldfilmworks.com. And as always, I would like to thank everyone for listening and visiting the blog, The Sage of Quay. Also, please visit laboroflovemusic.com to listen to my album, Leaving Dystopia. And remember, live in truth and always serve creation. It's really that simple. See everyone next week. Be safe, enjoy, and God bless.